Number 10. This is Algebra 1, Subpart 2. The calculator is allowed, and we're actually going to use it on this question. The height in inches of the student in Megan's algebra class is shown. Select 3 measures that will be affected if the student who is 77 inches tall joins the class. So if you look at your answer choices, we're talking about the interquartile range, your mean, which is your average, your median, your range, and your standard deviation. So what I wanted to show you is how to calculate all this in your graphing calculator. And I'm just going to set up a table here. Let's use a darker color. And we'll kind of basically set up 2 categories. One where you don't have the 77 added in, and then we'll add in 77 and see the difference. So what we're going to do is we're going to pull up a graphing calculator, and I'm going to enter the stat. We're going to edit, and we're just going to use list 1. So we got 54. So we've got all 20 pieces of data entered. If you notice, it says 21, but if I go up, whoops, didn't mean to do that. If I go up, my last data is 20 pieces of data. So this is without the 71. So I'm just using list 1, go back to stat, and calculate, and I'm only going to use the one variable, stats. Now let's talk about what each one of these represent. The first thing that you see is the X with a bar over it. That is representing your mean, your average. So with no 77 in there, we have about 65.3. If you scroll down through your data, it will give you your minimum value, and that's going to help us find the range, because remember, your range is your max value minus your minimum. So our minimum is 54, and we'll keep scrolling. Quartile 1, we need that because our interquartile range is going to be quartile 3 minus quartile 1. And let's keep scrolling. So we need that data. So that'll be median is 65, and I think that was a question. So we'll plug in 65 there, and we'll keep going. Quartile 3 is 70, so 70 take away 63 is going to, 70 take away 62 gives us 8 for the interquartile range. We've got the average, the mean, the median. I need the max number. So that's 72. 72 take away 54 is going to give me 18. Standard deviation. The standard deviation is an S and an X. So that's what you're looking for. And I think I actually passed it. Let's go up. Yes, standard deviation right here. We have 4.95. 4.95. So there we have the data where we don't have 77. So then we're going to go back and find the data. We're going to edit. So we go under stat, edit, and then we're going to add in 77. Then we go back to stat, calculate our one variable, and see how it's changed. So our standard deviation Notice that's the second thing listed is still 4.95. That has not changed, so we don't want to choose that. The minimum value will be affected by the range. So the minimum is 54. We need that quartile 1 for our inner quartile range. We have the average, which is 65.86. So the average is being affected there. It's getting a little bit larger. Did I mess up on the standard deviation? Did it change to? Yes, it did. I must have pulled up the last statistics. So the standard deviation did change to 5.32. I'm not sure what I clicked there. Your average is changing. Let's see if we got that right now. Yes, okay. And then your middle number, your median, your minimum is 54. Okay, so that's still right. Quartile 1 is 62, okay. Median is 65, so that hasn't changed, still got the same median. Quartile 3 is 70, so that's not going to change. That's still going to give us an inner quartile range of 8. And let's see, we need the max number is 77. So 77 minus 54 gives us a difference of 23. So that's changed. So the 3 measures that is affected would be your mean, your range, and your standard deviation. Number 11, Jessie sent email to 4 people for her school project. In her email, she requested that each person copy and send the same email to 4 additional people. If everyone continues to send the email as requested, which equation could be determined? The number of emails is y. So you've got 4 people that she sent out an email. And then those 4 people sent out 4 emails. And then each one of those sends out 4 emails. So you can see how this is going to be growing exponentially. So you want to have a variable as your exponent. I don't know why that keeps popping up. Solve the inequality. The first thing we want to do is get rid of our denominator. Multiply everything by your denominator. It cancels out on the right-hand side. On the left-hand side, we're going to have to use the distributive property. 4 times 4 gives us 16x. 4 times 7 gives us 28, greater than or equal to negative 12x plus 14. Continue to solve for x like you would an equation. Add 12x to both sides. 16x plus 12x gives you 28x. Remember, there's a few exceptions with inequalities. When you have to multiply or divide both sides by a negative number, you got to flip the inequality. When you're trying to get the variable on the left-hand side, you're going to have to flip the inequality. But on this one, I don't think we'll have to flip it. Then our last step is to divide by 28. And you want to reduce the fraction. And if you notice, 7 will go into 42 and 28. 6 and 4. And actually, I could have used a bigger number because those are both even. and that reduces down to 3 over 2. And notice your symbol greater than or equal to, so your answer should be C. Consider the expression. Select all the values where they equal 0. So what we want to do is we want to factor this apart. It's not completely factored. What's going to happen here is this is a difference of 2 squares. So you're going to have x plus 2, x minus 2. This one, the last part, is already factored. So then we're going to take each one of them, set them equal to 0, and solve this equation. All I'm going to do is basically take the opposite. So it says select all. So x equals negative 2. Add 2 over here. X is going to give me positive 2. And x is going to give me negative 3. Those are my 3 answers. The equation represents an account balanced T years after the account was created. If you look at your answer choices, you're seeing a percentage. This is exponential growth. I know that it's growth because this number, your B factor, your rate, is greater than 1. So we're going to have an increase. Not a decrease, but an increase. If the number inside the parentheses for an exponential is less than 1, then it would be a decrease. So if we take away the 1, we have this as our decimal. If we convert this into a percentage, we're going to move it 2 places to the right to give us 4%. So we're going to have a 4% increase. Number 15, the graph of 2 function is shown. Select all the values of x for which f of x equals g of x. So we want the values of x here. Where they equal are your solutions, or where they cross. So the x value here is negative 1, and the x value here would be 4. Uh-oh, left off an answer choice. And yep, there it is. Let's try this again. So here and here is negative 1 and 4, negative 1 and 4. They're looking for the x values. Number 16. One end of the metal spring is attached to a ceiling. The other end of the spring hangs down. The table displays the length of the spring when different masses are tied to the end of the spring as it hangs. How much longer does the spring become with each extra kilogram of mass that is tied to it? I feel like this question is very wordy, but all they're asking for is the rate. So if we think of this as your x values and your y values, you see that on the right-hand side, you are increasing by 0.1 each time. Over on the left-hand side, your x's, you are increasing by 2. So if we take 0.1 and divide it by 2, or half of 0.1, that would give us 0.05. Oops. And that is our rate. Number 17, consider the equation. Which equation has the same solution as the given equation? If you notice, the answer choices are almost in vertex form. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put everything on the left-hand side. I'll have x squared minus 12x plus 49 minus 22. I want to set everything equal to 0 before I start converting this or factoring this into a different format. So 49 take away 22 gives me 27. So x squared minus 12x plus 27. And since I noticed that the answer choices look very similar to vertex form, I'm going to use my axis of symmetry and put this in vertex form. So this is A. If you think about ax squared plus bx plus c, this is where I'm getting the formula. So that's going to be negative b times 2a. So that gives me a positive 12 over 2, which gives me 6. So this is going to go into my vertex formula as my h. My 1 is the same as in standard form as it is in vertex form. So I can just leave that off. So x minus 6. Notice it turns opposite when it goes inside the parentheses. And then for the k, what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my 6 and I'm going to plug it back into the equation. So I've got 6 to the second power minus 12 times 6 plus 27. Work all that out. 36 minus 72 plus 27 simplifies to negative 9. Now if you notice, these numbers are kicked out to the other side. So I'm going to change that y to a 0, and I'm going to add 9 to both sides. So then that's going to give me x minus 6 to the second power equals positive 9. Number 18, a rock is thrown from a cliff into a ravine. You have this function that describes the height in feet of the rock and t seconds. Well, if you notice, they're giving you the seconds. What is the height of the rock? So all we're going to have to do is plug this value in. Negative 16 times 8 and it'll give us the height. This is a calculator section, so you can just type all that in, save us some time. 3,072 feet will give us the height at 8 seconds. Number 19, John has a goal to ride his bike 100 miles this summer. John has ridden 12 miles thus far. There are 40 days left in the summer. What is the average number of miles John must ride each day to reach his goal of 100 miles? Well, he has 100 miles. He's already ridden 12, so he's got 88 miles left to go. So there's 40 days left, so 88 divided by 40 is going to give us about 2.2. 2.2 miles each day. Number 20. You have this quadratic equation. Which graph shows all the values of x for which f of x, the whole function, is greater than 0? So if you graph this on your graphing calculator, and we can pull our graphing calculator up and look at that. Guess I gotta turn it on first. Maybe not. All right, finally got the calculator on. Let's type this in. Negative 2x squared plus 20x minus 42. Hit graph. This is our standard 10 by 10 window, and it seems to fit in there. So if you notice here, the intercepts are at 3 and 7. And if you look down here, and we're really just looking at the section that is above 0, because we're looking at the output of the function where it's greater than or equal to 0. So that are all your x's between 3 and positive 7. So if you look down here, now my answers are covered up here by the graphing calculator, but you can see that answer choice D is your solutions from 3 to 7. And the reason we want to have the solutions between your dots, because if you notice, if I look at, let's say 3.5, I have an output, 4.5, everything in between 3 and 7 has an output.